Willis ha sido una revelación en el universo de la política en los Estados Unidos. Antes del estallido y de los hechos que tuvieron lugar en el estado de Georgia, nadie mencionaba su nombre. Sin embargo, previsoramente, una fiscal como Fani Willis estaba debidamente apuntalada en un condado llamado Fulton al acecho de cualquier proceso que podría beneficiar el desenvolvimiento de las contiendas electorales. Una llamada terrible, inadecuada, de la cual muchos se estarán quejando eternamente, realizada por el entonces candidato a la reelección Donald Trump, pensando que el gobernador del estado de Georgia le sería fiel en los principales argumentos para este tema. La llamada fue efectuada concretamente bajo el mando del secretario de Estado de Georgia, quien inmediatamente, con la aprobación del gobernador, hizo pública la grabación en la que el presidente reclamaba unos votos que consideraba había obtenido en el estado y que le podrían propinar la tan necesaria victoria para obtener la reelección como parte de las elecciones. El contenido de la llamada es innegable. La mala interpretación de todo cuanto se dice forma parte de muchas discusiones. Lo que ocurrió o dejó de ocurrir generó un caso no exento de sutilezas en el estado de Georgia.
We've got some breaking news in one of former President Donald Trump's criminal cases. A judge in Atlanta granted permission today for Trump and other defendants to appeal his decision that allowed District Attorney Fani Willis to remain in charge of Georgia's sprawling election subversion case. Judge Scott McAfee issued what's called a certificate of immediate review, and that allows the defendants to appeal directly to the state court of appeals before the case goes to trial. McAfee recently ruled that Willis did not have a disqualifying conflict of interest because of her romantic relationship with Nathan Wade, who is the special prosecutor that she hired to oversee the election case. The appeals court, rather, is not required to consider the matter, but by appealing the judge's decision, Trump and other defendants are likely to cause further delays in the case, one of 4 criminal prosecutions facing the former president election year.
De todo ello se ha estado hablando durante meses en las discusiones políticas de nuestro país. Todo llevó a que muchos de los coacusados posteriormente, los cuales hicieron llamadas y formaron parte de las gestiones por orden de sus superiores mientras trabajaban para el gobierno federal, todas estas personas comenzaron sus procesos judiciales por haber sido coacusados en el estado de Georgia. Todo esto ocurrió hasta que uno de ellos comenzó a buscar herramientas jurídicas y políticas fuertes como para desafiar a Fani Willis, probar su relación con el fiscal Wade y comenzar a quitarle fuerza como parte de los procedimientos. De todo ello hay valiosa evidencia.
Well, it was a salacious couple of days on television, watching in a camera in the courtroom, to hear about the personal, intimate relationship of District Attorney Fani Willis and the special prosecutor that she hired, who was her lover for a period of time. The salaciousness of this and the fact that she decided to testify when she was angry leads us to a point that it has probably hurt her credibility. The case will not be dismissed. I doubt that she will be disqualified. But ultimately, although she wins the motion, I would say that it could be said politically that the case then legally.
Cuando el juez McAfee en Fulton actuó de una manera ambigua en torno a lo que se estaba discutiendo sobre el fiscal Wade, cuando el juez McAfee fue más salomónico que el rey Salomón y lo que hizo fue acatar todo lo que se probaba contra las entidades judiciales del condado de Fulton, lo único que hizo fue autorizar el desarrollo de un proceso que fuese en busca de un escrutinio sobre Nathan Wade y Fani Willis. Los tórtolos, a partir de ese momento, comenzarían a ser mucho más escrutados por la justicia, pero hubo mucha ambigüedad en el proceso de la corte. McAfee pudo tomar una decisión concreta en ese momento, escuchó todos los argumentos, esgrimió todos los regaños, pero no hizo lo que tenía que hacer. ¿Por qué no lo hizo? No lo hizo porque simple y llanamente no le convenía hacerlo, pues quedaría muy mal parado en torno al sistema judicial y a sus colegas en el estado de Georgia. Así que optó por exigirle a la propia Fani Willis que tomara medidas concretas. Fani, en un acto actoral muy pero muy esperado, escribió una misiva presionando a su amante Wade para que renunciara a este caso que había seguido durante tanto tiempo. En una carta cínica, palabrosa, plus y de muy poca credibilidad, Wade lamentó tener que retirarse de un proceso judicial tan importante y que había llevado él hasta las últimas consecuencias. Y fue así como ocurrió este nivel de renuncia después de que McAfee actuase con ambigüedad ante la corte. De la ambigüedad de McAfee hay pruebas, hay verdades, hay evidencia.
What I would say is misstates the law as it relates to what the law or what is required in order for an elected district attorney and their office to be disqualified. And what I would submit to the court is...
Let's go back to that. Show me how.
Yes. Show you how.
So I think the first one they cited was Battle versus the state. Certainly a conflict of interest or the appearance of impropriety can be the grounds of disqualification.
Well,
there are a number of these cases that seem to exclusively rely on the appearance of impropriety.
right.
So I think they acknowledge that there's some ambiguity here, that sometimes Whitworth gets cited to Ventura, and we've got this quote that comes up where it's just they only cite to an actual conflict that must be involved. They acknowledge the ambiguity. You're saying there's no ambiguity whatsoever.
La abogada de un coacusado en torno a este caso que vincula a Trump y a otras 18 personas, un caso cuyo nombre es Los 19 de Fulton, llevó múltiples evidencias a la Corte Estatal de Georgia. Exigió ante la instancia estatal que el Comité de Ética y los comités que rigen los procesos judiciales escucharan toda la cantidad de argumentos que tenía ella para presentar en este juicio. Allí mostró evidencias de la relación de Wade con Fani Willis desde mucho antes de lo que habían dicho. Allí mostró que Fani Willis y Nathan Wade habían cometido perjurio al mentir ante la corte del juez McAfee. Allí mostró que Fani Willis y Nathan Wade habían establecido una persecución política en el entramado de este juicio. Allí mostró la abogada de este coacusado que todas estas personas habían sido presionadas en grado sumo y que incluso habían aceptado de una manera espectacular ser condenados con tal de librarse de la presión ejercida como parte del proceso judicial. Esta mujer llevó ante la Corte Estatal todos estos elementos, los cuales constituyeron muy fuertes argumentos contra Fani Willis. ¿Qué fue lo que dijo la abogada de este coacusado ante la Corte Estatal en Georgia? La verdad se dice con evidencia.
One of the other things I did was I did open records for the White House access, and we had records that Ms. Willis and the mayor of Atlanta were at meeting with the vice president.
Okay, and so this is the access history. How does that work? The White House keeps records of anybody that comes in and has any kind of official meeting, for sure?
Yes, and my understanding is it's highly regulated who can access the White House, and so you have to apply in person or apply ahead of time, and then they give you a time when you make the appointment, and they give you a time when you're allowed to be in and when you have to be out by, and they track you. And I mean, that makes sense. They don't want anybody lingering in the White House, but they keep that. And so they're called WAVE records, I believe is what they're called, and I'm not sure what that's an acronym for, but they're publicly available. They're open records.
And this record that's shown on the screen shows Fani Willis was a visitor with V. POTUS. I presume that's Vice President of the United States?
Yes, it was.
And what was the date of that back in, was that February sometime of 23?
February 28, 2023.
Is that before the indictment?
Yes.
Okay. Any further explanation of why Ms. Willis was meeting with the Vice President of the United States?
No. I know Dexter Bonds, and I believe that's the same one that I think it's Dixon, the mayor of Atlanta, was also there.
Okay.
She became DA in, it would have been January 2021.
Okay.
So she became DA January 1st, 2021, but she had a transition team leading up to that. So, and Mr. Wade was in charge of her transition team. So Mr. Bradley told me all of that. We met for about an hour. Said that they had been together. They met at this conference. Nathan was still married, and Mr. Bradley was upset because of what happened in the divorce. He was upset because they were still married, the Wades were still married, and he essentially just left her after meeting Miss Willis and dropping the kids off at college. So.
And Bradley was Wade's attorney in that divorce action you're talking about? Okay.
Yes, I didn't know that at the time.
But they were law partners?
They had been,
okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And I actually don't know if he was still his attorney when he talked to me. I don't know if he was or not.
All right.
Because at some point, Mr. Wade represented himself, and then he hired a different lawyer. So I didn't know anything about the divorce at that time.
So Bradley did not like the way Wade had treated his wife?
He did not.
But he represented him.
He did not like the way he had treated his wife. He didn't like what was happening in the divorce proceeding, yes.
Okay.
And, I mean, I remember specifically him saying, I handle my business, things like that. Like, that I don't leave my wife without alimony. Because this, and we talked about it. I mean, Miss Wade had been a stay-at-home mom for, they'd been married almost 30 years. And literally it was right after they dropped their youngest off at college that he said, move out,